Hello, everyone. Welcome to Buddhist Center. It's Thursday night, and we're talking about Lama Tsongkhapa's foundation of all good qualities, the source of all my good, begging for a bounty of blessings, with Pabunka Rinpoche's beautiful commentary, very short commentary, but shows us how to really, with a key, open the door to so many different texts, that ocean that flows into all of the Lam Rim texts. Can be found within this very short poem if we have the keys to kind of open the door to see what's inside each of these beautiful stanzas. And we find, as I've said a million times, the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, the great treatise on the stage of the tantric path to enlightenment. We find all of these texts inside these stanzas. And if we get to know, more and more literature, personally, we read more books, and we, look at the authentic Indian commentaries, and we look at more Tibetan commentaries, we start to see how these stanzas are so loaded with information. And that's the whole point of a small poem like this, is to allow us to take something very short and glance through it. But glancing through it allows us to kind of have an outline of how to practice. And that outline allows us to then, the more and more we understand through our own studies, so the wisdom arisen from hearing or learning, fill in the information that makes the stanza then explode into what will eventually be the realization that Pabunka Rinpoche says that we pray to have at the end of these stanzas. And that's the realization of that stanza, the realization of the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity, the realization of the teaching shared in common with beings of medium capacity, the realization of the teachings for beings of great capacity related to the perfection vehicle and the resultant vehicle. So we're really fortunate that we have, this full context from which to look at the Lam Rim from, this small poem, the foundation of all good qualities from, because many of us had the fortune of studying with Khenser Geshe Wandak during that period of time where he taught the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment for over a decade, I think, just that one text. And then also within that, when we needed to get into different points, he would go into other texts and the four interwoven commentaries, and really helped us to understand how to practice this text, and then how to understand some of the smaller Lam Rims within its context, by being able to use it as our frame of reference as to what the smaller texts are pointing at or getting at. So it's because of the kindness of Khenser Geshe Wandak, and I'm sure the kindness of other teachers that you've had, and Geshe Lobsang Gompo, and now Geshe Dorje Damdu, and of course, the jewel, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Shenrezig in person in our world. We have this kind of broader context so that we can, look at a poem and be able to have it be a lifelong practice, have this poem be our lifelong meditation. Have this poem be something that we can quickly bring up in times of difficulty, or in times where we're running towards things out of attachment, or running away from things because of anger, and in times of discontent and fear. We can pull up these stanzas, and we can recognize that, well, of course, these are circumstances that are happening. And if there are circumstances that are causing me to have a discomfort in my mind, then there's something wrong, because a mind of discontent, a disturbed mind, isn't my aim. It's just not. A disturbed state of mind is the exact opposite of what I'm aiming for. But unfortunately, because of this misperception, because of this ignorance that I kind of have innately, and I've also acquired, I just don't get it. Basically, I just don't, have the ability to properly achieve the states of mind that I'm looking for, because I'm working from a basis that's wrong. So it's really wonderful that we have this information that can click us back into reality when we start to snap out of reality, when we start to become too attached, or and we become attached and we become angry. We have this information that kind of can snap us back into reality in various different ways, at various different levels. And I don't mean just emptiness. Let's just go right to emptiness. I mean, there's a lot of tools that are found within the stages of the path to enlightenment along the way, that can be used right away as antidotes to common everyday problems. And if you familiarize yourself with those kind of antidotes and change the way that you look at things in a kind of coarser way, that allows more space to open up so that then you can look at things in a more subtle way. And that's why we're looking at calm abiding meditation. And the part that we're in right now seems a lot like analytical meditation, but it's a kind of analysis that's allowing our minds, if they're kind of too loud with certain kinds of afflictions, to have the volume of those things turned down enough to be able to focus the mind and direct the mind in a way that isn't overtaken. And we see that it's so easy for us to just be overtaken. And so many of us are just overtaken constantly by the various afflictions of attachment, and aversion and ignorance and jealousy and pride and discursiveness, busyness of mind. We're just overtaken by this. Some of us maybe have flashes of it, but then some of us have more moderate levels of it, medium kind of levels of it, where it's happening more often. And then others are really overcome by, various forms of negativity. And a lot of us in the West, or, who are exposed to this modern society. Now it's not just the West anymore. I mean, everyone has iPhones and, cell phones in the monasteries. We have, this bombardment with information. And when our senses are bombarded with information, our senses are, conduits to our mind, and they're riding right next to it. So the mind then is taking it, and think, oh, there's that, oh, there's this, there's that. I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that, and that. And what about this? And what about that? And this is just a busy mind of discursiveness that's just dwelling, and as it says in Shantideva's text, in the fangs of the afflictions. Because a mind that is not harnessed is able to just run at things and push things away just so quickly and just so readily and so able. And this distracted mind is able to then not catch it. There's no introspection there to be able to say, no, that object doesn't have the value that I'm giving it. Or, hey, everything's impermanent. Why don't I take a look at that, this moment is going to change. Everything's going to change. I'm going to change. But we don't have the time. We don't have that kind of readily available for us, because we become so just distracted. And the tools that we're learning here about achieving calm abiding are tools that you can apply to your daily life that will make you study better. Your mind is calmer. You'll be able to study better. You won't be so apt to be like, oh, I have to go do something else besides what I've told my mind to do, that is study. You'll be able to engage in a personal relationship better, because when you decide to, okay, now I'm really going to listen, you really listen, and you'll be able to take in all of the information that's necessary to be able to be as most helpful to the people around you as possible. So this calm mind has so many benefits besides being able to, and being the only thing that will allow you to, have this illuminated kind of calmness that is achieved at the best level of calm mind, meaning shamatha. You won't be able to see emptiness without it. You won't be able to if you don't get your mind to the best kind of calm mind, calm abiding, shamatha, you won't be able to see emptiness directly. You won't be able to, at an inferential level, be able to get to the most subtle level of kind of conceptual understanding of emptiness that's necessary to have the breakthrough where you see emptiness directly. So calming your mind down helps in everyday life, would help you at your job. It would help you with your interpersonal relationships. It would help you study better. And as you go through different stages of calm abiding, as you get more familiar with it, you get more familiar with setting your mind on an internal object and, calming down or pacifying external kind of distraction. Passive, the more you become familiar with doing that, well before shamatha, you'll start to see that your reaction towards, negative kind of reactions kind of have a little bit of a, better harness around them than they would without it. You start to see how you can study more things and study different things and have an ability to be focused in such a way that you'll see where your other studies connect to it and so forth, where you never would have been focused enough to kind of draw upon the information that details around this, because you wouldn't see it necessarily. When I say this, I mean texts like Lama Tsongkhapa is illuminating the intent, his commentary on Chandrakirti's entrance to the middle way, supplement to the middle way, that includes the clear words. Really, you need to have a calm mind. It's not just calm and dull, because normally we think calm, we think let's take a nap. But this calm mind, this is a very bright and illuminated calm mind, like calm and bright and brilliant. And this is the way that it's described. It's a meditative stabilization arisen from a pliancy, a mental and physical pliancy, a bliss and a pliancy that allows you to sit on this object of observation that you've been trying to contain, and trying to fight with excitement and laxity and dullness and subtle levels of these things. You achieve this state that allows you, to really, really rest on an object without any wavering. You've gotten to this point through combating all of these things. And in the meantime, while you're learning to get to this place where you're going through the stages to get to this place, or learning to get to this place, or practicing to get to this place, along the way, and you're beating up laxity and excitement and the subtle levels and so forth along the way, you're getting better at other stuff too, getting better at listening to a teaching, you're getting better at reading a book, and etc. So I don't want to make it sound like, calm abiding, special insight, and seeing emptiness, and, not connect it, not make it relatable to our daily lives, because that's how we evolve spiritually. We habituate our minds with behaving in certain ways throughout the day. It isn't just about seeing emptiness directly. It is at the, like at the high level, but the way you get to that is, first of all, through ethical behavior. And there's no way, if you're not able to tell your mind what to do, your intentions are going to be good, and your intentions are going to lead your body and your speech into good things. There's just no way. If you don't have, this kind of a way to calm down enough in the moment to catch it, to be mindful, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be abstaining from the 10 non-virtuous activities. I mean, think about, when we look at some of them are fine, but others like gossip, talking about things that don't really matter, basically things that aren't the way to be Buddhahood. And we look at things like divisive speech and, having that nice conversation with another person about someone else, just trying to get to know the other person better. But you're really just talking about them and how, like, oh man, they're like this. And boy, I hope you agree with me that they're like this. So you've now like taken this person that you have in the room's opinion of another person's person down a couple notches. You've divided them a little bit. And you've done this all in the disguise of wanting to be helpful for this other person, wanting to somehow get to know the other person better. But you're actually just trying to get the other person on your side and dividing this person away from where they were closer to the person to be on your side, so that then you can then intervene in the way that you feel there should be some sort of intervening. So it's interesting how divisive speech can be disguised at times, and our motivations we can even fool ourselves with our own motivation. So I think that it's just something, when we look at the 10 non-virtues, gossip and divisive speech are ones that we really engage in a lot. We tend to, as a society, we tend to gossip, and sometimes they're hand in hand. We're talking about other people, we're gossiping, and we're dividing and conquering. They kind of go hand in hand. So, that's why Shanti Deva said this, right? A mind that dwells and is distracted is in the fangs of afflictions. This is why it was said, because if we're not paying attention, and our tendency is to kind of run towards things and run away from things, and our tendency is to really operate from a self-cherishing attitude, and if we're not paying attention to the fact that that's not good, we aren't mindful of the fact that cherishing others is the way to go. If we're just thinking cherishing ourselves is the way to go, and we're not remembering that even if we want to think about just cherishing ourselves, that if we're not mindful of the fact that by engaging in non-virtue, suffering comes, then we're not even thinking about ourselves very well. So it's interesting to see that this kind of calm state of mind allows us to make appropriate decisions and so forth. But then there's a support that seems to happen. The more and more you're engaging in ethical behavior, the more you're able to have a calm mind. So there's kind of a support with one another, but it becomes the main support for the concentration is the ethical behavior. So it's interesting to see how sooner or later you kind of get it, and you really, really engage in ethical behavior. And that allows for you to get the finer concentrations that we're talking about, the shamatha concentrations. But if ethics is first, this is just me now thinking, if ethics is first, there obviously means that you're working within ways of calming your mind down in order to have ethics. So when we talk about the Lam Rim, we always talk about how you have these epiphanies about earlier things by looking at later things. And this is one of those cases where you have to think, in order to be ethical, you would need to have a pretty calm mind that's be able to mindful, has a spy in the mind of introspection that's watching to see whether or not you're abstaining from the 10 non-virtuous activities. And that's why Lama Tsongkhapa is in the beginning of the Lam Rim, talks about telling your mind what to do and keeping it away from laxity and excitement. And in your analysis, and he convinces you to do that, and then says your meditation isn't just fixed meditation, it's also analysis. So Tsongkhapa really primes us in the beginning, to see that we need this kind of meditative serenity, as it's called, and this calm abiding in the long run. But getting there, kind of the road to there, is part of the process of us understanding the earlier topics and being able to actually realize the earlier topics. And, who could say what the exact, I would think, or in order to, how would you day and night want to get out of cyclic existence if you didn't have this mind that could singly focus on that? Because Tsongkhapa says in the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, the calm abiding is a single pointed concentration. It's a single pointed focus, and this definition of renunciation just sounds like that, this day and night seeking, not having a moment waver from this seeking transcendent liberation, becoming a day and night wanting to become, then from that, you then day and night want to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Think about the level of concentration that either of those two things would take. And then I propose this question to all of you. I propose it. Meditatives, this meditation is taught in the beginning of the Lam Rim Chemo in the small scope, a little bit, little tiny bit. And then it's, mentioned mostly in the great scope. Like, Tsongkhapa says, I'll give you the heavy stuff there when he gets in the 3 highest higher trainings in the medium scope, the teaching, sharing, common with meetings of medium capacity. He says, don't worry. We'll get to, the insight and wisdom and, shamatha vipassana. We'll go heavy there later on in there. But he mentions the skill set in the beginning of the Lam Rim Chemo. So what kind of skill set does one need with concentration? I'm putting this to the audience. You figure this out. Excuse me. What kind of skill set is going to be mentally needed to day and night participate in this life in a way where you're behaving in ways that don't give you rebirth in the lower realms in your next life? And then take a peek at the small scope, teaching shared and common with beings of small capacity, and see what you would need, to be able to have a life of leisure and opportunity, and why, and then take a look at how a human basis is difficult to achieve and why it's difficult to achieve, and so forth. And then start to see that if you're really wanting it not to just be dumb luck and just, wow, on your deathbed, you did something right, dumb luck. If you want to direct it, like this, the teachings for teaching, sharing common with beings of small capacity are talking really about directing it. Directing all your activities at this ability to be able to have this fortunate rebirth. So if you aren't just trying to, by some dumb luck at your deathbed, make it. You're directing it. The rest of your life is dedicated to directing it towards fortune. What kind of mind would that take? Could you do that, without shamatha or something really on? This is my question. It says in Pabunga Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, I believe that's where I read it, that you can get bodhicitta without shamatha. But I have tetsum, which is doubt. I raise a doubt. So, is Lorinda available?
I am. Are you going to share screen?
Well, here's my situation.
Oh.
I don't have my prayer book, which I need.
Okay.
I think it's on the table right there in the other room, and it has all the prayers in it. I just didn't grab it. So I will have you share screen momentarily. But first, I just need my prayer book.
Okay, right there.
Thank you. So yes, we're fortunate humans among the few who get to hear information like this, who get to hear information that makes sense, that isn't just something that we say, oh, we have to have blind faith because the people saying it seem to really, really have it together. No, I don't really have it together. If I had it together, I would have achieved these realizations. But I believe this because the information has convinced me to believe it. It's not some sort of blind faith because I thought Khensa Rinpoche was just absolutely fantastic, although he was. And you'd get into a room with him, you knew he was, different and special. But you know what? I've been in the room with other people who I thought were different and special, who don't have the answers. I have. So the only way that after a while, someone like me can really buy into it, if you're anything like me, is you're going to have to, sort it out for yourself. And Rinpoche always thought it was so funny because, in his culture, that you would, especially a layperson to the retired abbot of the Dalai Lama's monastery, you would just accept and say, yes, oh, yes. And then, oh, yes. And I would be the one who said, come on, this doesn't, well, what about, and Rinpoche would always appreciate that. And I am so grateful that he did appreciate that and wasn't someone who just shut it down, because it allowed me to arrive at this, discover this at some level, course level for myself, and discover that this stuff works and that, I hope that I can convey the little bits of understanding that I have of it to you because Rinpoche told me to. And yeah, so in the language of the gods, Nagas, and Yaksas, in the language of demons and of humans too, and however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. So now imagine that you bring all sentient beings here to be your guest, to come to the teaching, to lead them in prayers, to have them be able to turn off whatever level of suffering they're having or whatever level of happiness they think that they're having within cyclic existence, just enough to be able to hear the teaching, to be able to listen to the teaching so that they can achieve the wisdom arisen from hearing or learning, so that then they have something to analyze, so they can have the wisdom arisen from analysis, so that they have something to meditate on, so they can have the wisdom arisen from meditation. So we imagine that we bring all sentient beings here, leaving none aside, hell, hungry ghosts, animal, human, demigods, and gods as our guests, to be able to hear about the truth of suchness, to be able to hear about how to get rid of the self-cherishing attitude. Because if we don't, we'll just circle in cyclic existence over and over again. If I don't get rid of the self-grasping ignorance that gives rise to the self-cherishing attitude, I will circle in cyclic existence over and over again. Likewise, every single sentient being will have to circle in cyclic existence if he or she doesn't get rid of the self-grasping ignorance. So imagine that you've brought all sentient beings here to be your guests, to be able to hear how to do that, how to get rid of self-grasping ignorance that gives rise to the self-cherishing attitude, this inappropriate attention that gives rise to the afflictions and the contaminated karmas, and then all of the sufferings of cyclic existence. So now you imagine that all sentient beings have been brought here. Imagine that you're all in the 7-point Vairakana posture, ready to listen to the teaching, ready to be able to absorb the information, calming your mind down as much as you possibly can, taking some breaths in and breaths out in order to just calm your mind down. We're not going to do a formal meditation because there's some topics I want to get to this evening, but let's just take a moment to just breathe in and breathe out, focusing on the breath, trying to get our minds just internally, get our minds kind of focused into inwardly, as opposed to having our sense consciousness, our sense minds focused on external things. Let's draw our mind in a little bit and calm ourselves down by just meditating on the breath. Imagine that all sentient beings are just calming down and meditating on the breath. From this calm state, imagine that in the space in front of you, the merit field begins to emerge, beginning with Buddha Shakyamuni. And that Buddha Shakyamuni has been containing the entire merit field. And you imagine that in the space in front of you, the entire merit field begins to fill in. So you have all sentient beings around you. And now in the space in front of you, all of the merit field, all the enlightened being, those beings who've removed the afflictive obstructions and obstructions to omniscience are all filling in the space in front of you, looking into your eyes, so happy that you're engaging in something that will get rid of all of your suffering and will lead you to a state of bliss, that state that all of these beings in the space in front of you are in. Imagining Buddha Shakyamuni and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Kensur Geshe Wanda, Geshe Lobsang Gompo, Kensur Lobsang Gyatso, Demolosha Rinpoche, imagining Geshe Dorje Damdula, Umzala Geshe Aga, Geshe Mala Tenzin Ladrin, Jeffrey Hopkins, imagining Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Chado Rinpoche, Ani Thupten Chodron, all of the holy beings, imagining them in the space in front of you, filling in, looking into your eyes with such love and compassion. Imagine the beings of the extensive deeds lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Maitreya and Asanga and Vasubandhu and Dignaga and Dharmakirti and Vimuktasena and Haribhadra and Gunaprabha and Shakyaprabha and Sirlimpa and Lord Atisha. Just hearing their names calms all of the suffering of sentient beings. Just hearing their names. Imagine the beings of the profound view lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri and Nagarjuna and Buddhapalita and Chandrakirti and Shanti Deva and Arya Deva and Chandrashita and Baba Vega and Kamala Shila and Lama Salimpa and Lord Atisha in the space right there in front of you. These are the beings, and their writings will be responsible for our awakening. And we're so connected to them. And our lineage goes from our teacher all the way back to Buddha Shakyamuni through them. Imagine the beings of the lineage of blessings passed down from Vajradhar and Sarahan, Matripa and Tilopa and Naropa and Losawa Marpa and Jetsun Milarepa and Gampopa. Imagining Lord Atisha is passing down the Lamrim lineage to Drontompa and the three old Kadampa lineages, all in the space in front of you. Imagining the holy beings of the Nyingma lineage, Padmasambhava, Sakya lineage, Satyakunga Nimpo, Sakya Pandita, imagining the Kaju lineage, the Karmapas, imagining Galupa lineage, Lama Tsongkhapa, Kirtupje, Jelsupje, Basuchuji Jetson, Penchen Sanandrapa, Jayan Cheba, Jitsumba, Purbajo, imagining Gonja Jimbi Wambo, Janja Rupi Dorje, the seventh Dalai Lama. All of these holy beings were so connected to the highest Yoga Tantra deities, performance Tantra deities, action Tantra deities, all of the 35 Buddhas, all of the protector deities, all are in the space in front of you. And imagine from this merit field that light rays and nectar shower down on you and all sentient beings, pacifying your minds, calming your minds, making you so open, and all sentient beings that you've brought here to hear the teachings, making your mind so open to being able to hear these teachings. Now we'll recite the Heart Sutra. And as we recite the Heart Sutra, imagine that all sentient beings are reciting it alongside of you and alongside of me. In the Heart Sutra, we're gotcha. Exactly. So the Heart Sutra, when we're reciting it, you know, when you hear the monks chanting, like a lot of monks chanting. Many of you have heard this, right? I'm sure. Thousands of monks chanting at Drepung when you hear the, whole assembly chanting. And then you've heard also nuns, nunneries. If you haven't, please do. Chanting. They have this just beautiful chanting. So when we're reciting the Heart Sutra and you're imagining that you're leading all beings in prayer, imagine it like that. Imagine like, yeah, 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 and ha, like that being chanted, that all sentient beings in the various vocal tones. I use monks and nuns because that's what I have to work with. Vocal tones, various vocal tones, high vocal tones, low vocal tones, from the highest ah to the ooh. Imagine that all of these kind of, levels of sounds are being made, and even other levels. You hear the multiphonic chanting, and those sounds gods and other beings hear and understand better. So imagine that when we're doing this Heart Sutra, we're saying in the language of gods, nagas, yaksas, and of everyone's language. So when we're doing the Heart Sutra and we're chanting this, imagine that you're doing it, and this is the sutra of, you're just hearing all these beings around you you've brought here chant this. And also you can get it to, it's almost like a pulse that's happening, a vibration of noise that's going on in your mind. And then also imagining the meaning of it. If you can catch the words as you're doing it, thus have I heard, and you're setting it up. Once the Blessed One is dwelling in Rajagriha, and you're imagining that the merit field just turns into Rajagriha. You can do things like this. This is what they make practice work. You make it real. The merit field turns into Rajagriha, Vulture Peak Mountain, and there's, Shariputra, and there's Chenrezig, and then there's Buddha, and this is all happening, and this is going on, and the Buddha's talking about ultimate reality, the definitive teaching, the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, and the Buddha's implicitly talking about the 5 paths that lead to Buddhahood. And they're Vulture Peak Mountain, and these beings are high bodhisattvas, and some of them are getting it just from the mantra, and the merit field's all right there. And some of, I'm imagining a lot of times as a play, and these are all Buddhas already, but acting out how one would go about, learning from a high teacher and so forth. But imagine it in a way that it makes it real. And you hear the chanting around you of the Heart Sutra of all the beings you've invited here. It's not just you. You said you're leading sentient beings, so you should hear them. So make it personal when you do this. The Sutra of, the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. I wish I had my phone and I could play you the assembly of Drepung, and I could play you the assembly of Jayan Choling Nunnery, and then I could somehow mix them all together. And then I could play you Emzala Geshe Aga doing multiphonic chanting, and mash it all together. And that's what it could sound like for you, if you're really leading these beings, not in a distracting way, not in a chaotic way, but in a way that you really are feeling that you've done something, as opposed to, and that's if I heard, and that's the one was dwelling. You're really feeling like you're doing something. And then the merit field in front of you is this teaching. This is the teaching that's being given. So there's words that you're hearing, we're all reciting it, but it's also the teaching that's being given from the blessing of the Buddha and Shariputra and Chenrezig. So it's being chanted by the sentient beings in a way of concurring. And we're inspiring them in our Vairakana posture in a way of concurring. But we have the teachers in the front of us that are teaching it, saying the same thing. So if that makes any sense, there's this kind of relationship that's happening, this live kind of action, imagination that's happening. And the more you can do this, I assure you, the more prepared you will be for Tantra in the future. Not Tantra guy, but I've read enough about it to know that these things all correlate. These things all are connected. The more you can do sutra meditation like this, and this is why you imagine the Buddha, and it's because of, yes, it inspires you. It makes your mind more sober, and it's a virtuous object, but it's so that you get good at that. And then you can then generate. You've already learned how to do front generation in the sutra practice. He tricked you into it. All right. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way, saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should say in this way, seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature, form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics, there is no birth and no cessation, there is no impurity and no purity, there is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I, dhatu, up to no mind, dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness, dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as true, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhisoha. The Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Aga samara jasanda samara yave je adon gati gati paragati parasangati bedu zoa baba gojo sanji kai de medoji je labadoji mebadoji shewadoji dragi baja mete beje danji je tingari zo ha gerendo jaje je wa da me don be ande wa don don ba jun jin bon zon zon joji daji de jan den da de le zo. Outer mandal offering. Yamali Anye no me no I ro go no yo yo Ye zo la ma na
Dhamma Yena Nidyo Yen Yun Din Game Nu Ye Ma La Za Ye Yu
I send forth this jewel mandala to you, precious Guru.
Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Gani Radayami. Zanye Janan Ye Janala Janju Badu Danye Jazuji Dagi Jiji Bezananji Jala Benji Zanye Jubajo Zanye Janan Ye Janala Janju Badu Danye Jazuji Dagi Jiji Bezananji Jola Benji Zanye Juba Jo Zanye Jonan Ye Jonan La Janju Badu Danye Nyanzuji Nagi Juje Jibe Zananji Jola Benji Zanye Juba Jo.
Enthused by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. If you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Okay, so now we'll read the source of all my good in its entirety, and then we'll talk about calm abiding a little bit. So this incredible poem by Lama Tsongkhapa encompasses everything that we need to know in order to become a Buddha, and very fortunate beings we are. And if you can stick around, if you're brand new, for a bit, and start to see the logic and reasoning behind the two truths and the Four Noble Truths, you'll see why it's so important to find a spiritual guide who's qualified and who can take you through these stages by the hand in a way that will mean something to you. So just take your time, but recognize that this is the most important thing you'll ever do.
I can read if you'd like.
Sure, that'd be
Okay.
wonderful.
Okay, give you a break. Source of all my good. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him with all my strength and reverence. Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I have died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrong of many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of the Buddhist teachings. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, every one my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice a wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough, for if I'm not well trained in the three moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I've practiced well the path shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter the perfect ease, the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortunate and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then to always keep them if it costs my life. Bless me next to realize as well I can the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times, highest that there is. Bless me, grant me that the spiritual friend who shows me this good road and all my true companions in this quest live long and fruitful lives. Bless and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me or outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. And all my lives may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself the one who holds the diamond.
Thank you so much, Lorinda. So, yeah, we've been talking about calm abiding. And what is calm abiding? We've defined it and, looked at the etymology of it, and knowing that it's a mind's abiding on an internal object with a calming of distraction of the outside, and that it's defined as a kind of a meditative stabilization that is arisen from meditation, and it's conjoined with a special mental and physical pliancy. And Lama Tsongkhapa is a bliss in there. And when we look at the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment and the special calm abiding section, we find this point that's being made. And if there isn't this pliancy that's arisen, it's not really a calm abiding. So there's states that feel like, seem like, are focused in a way that have a similitude of calm abiding. And we need to be able to discern the difference. And the way we do so, not that it's a real problem for me at this point, that subtle discernment, but it will be, because I know these stages work. I know that it will be a problem for me if I continue to meditate. So I need to learn now. So when I get to that stage, I need to learn now exactly what I need to be looking for to know whether or not the sign is there, what's the measure of a fully qualified calm abiding. Do I have it? Because that's the only thing that'll conjoin with special insight. That actually special insight will kind of fire it up from special insight side and make it even a more vibrant calm abiding. It's something that this conjoining that happens. So we have to learn about it. And the only way we learn about it is to learn about it. There's no one can wave a wand and we figure out how to achieve calm abiding. And calm abiding isn't just sit around and focus on the breath and you'll get it. Sooner or later, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know what's going on in your meditation in order to be successful at it. You couldn't expect to do anything well without learning how to do it. So this is the point that's being made here. So we've been talking about objects to meditate on that kind of facilitate the conquest of the kind of louder problems that we have. So we've been learning about the objects that are called objects of observation for purifying behavior, because we know that it says the prerequisites for getting calm abiding that you need all of these kind of ways about you, few desires, not a lot of wants, and being content with what you have, and so forth, and making sure that you have good people around you. So you're trying to kind of conquest. If you have a real problem with desire, of course you're going to put people around you that you wouldn't want to have around you, and you're going to be constantly having lots of wants. There's no way you're going to even be able to get started. Or if you hate people, or you have this strong aversion and anger for things, and this is the way your mind works. You know what it's like when you're really, really angry. Some people are really, really always angry. So imagine if when you're really, really angry, that was your state of mind all the time. And now I tell you, meditate on the breath. You're like, screw off. You need something that's a direct antidote that actually will work kind of cognitively to go against the cognitive. Fighting cognitive with the cognitive, this conceptual way of thinking that gets you angrier and angrier. You need to use something conceptual to unangrier and unangrier it. So this is what we're trying to do, is trying to get the mind into a place when we're dealing with this kind of objects of observation for purifying behavior, into a place where it says, in the Meditation on Emptiness by Jeffrey Hopkins, those in whom either desire, hatred, obscuration, pride, and if we add Gampopa's jealousy, discursiveness predominate, you should choose an object as outlined above, because without overcoming the vibrancy, this word vibrancy, of the afflictions by way of those objects of observation, firm meditative stabilization cannot be attained. So we see the connection between applying the antidote to these kind of grosser things in our mind that are plaguing us and loudest, to the connection to being able to eventually have calm abiding in shamatha. So these teachings Rinpoche gave us over the years that seemed like, helpful antidotes to our problems in our daily life and our dirty minds, were actually tools being given to us to be able to learn how to get shamatha. And they were being given to us, you don't give the children all of the sharp tools at first. You give them the plastic ones, to play with. As Lobsang Samten said, all this stuff on the altar is for the kindergartners that still need the blocks and everything. The yogi just needs a cave in their mind. And the Rinpoche says, oh, I can help you out. If you're really angry, meditate on this. Or if your mind's busy, meditate on that. Because this is something we want our minds to feel good. And we know that our minds feel like crap when they're doing that, or when we're really obsessed with getting something. We know that's not good. So Rinpoche came through and was like, hey, I have this nice solution for you in your daily life. But little did we know he was teaching us shamatha. He was teaching us about objects of observation for, getting our behavior under control. And what is our behavior? Our minds, our modes of being, our running after things. We talk and our body moves a lot because of these intentions. And if our intentions are, we discriminate an object and it makes us feel bad and we hate it, we push it away. We discriminate an object, we become attached and we need it. And we run towards it. We can see how that discrimination that is just making our behavior so off and just so busy. And if we're just doing this, forget about sitting for 4 hours on an object in bliss and pliancy. We can't even do it for like 5 seconds without going, I gotta go do this, or man, that person did that. So this is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to be like, everyone likes to talk about shamatha, but Khensa Rinpoche was talking about like, okay, here's your plastic wrench, and here's, don't cut yourself on the wrench, and then later on, when you know how to hold this thing, I'll tell you how to really use a real wrench. I'm so grateful for Rinpoche, kind of, bringing me up that way. bringing me up, and I never saw it coming most of the time. Never saw it coming. And I'm just amazed over and over again how these complex topics are undone by the simplicity of the, plastic wrench I was given and used over and over and over again to a point where, now I could actually think about the Buddha as an object. Because the plastic, these things, they're not as loud. You all weren't around, but I came in 1995 to Buddhism. 96 and 97, I was in a hardcore band. And I was very angry at the world and at the people and at the grown. I was just angry, and I thought that punching a pillow, screaming, was the way to suppress anger. And then I learned about Buddhism more and more and more. And, it's just not how I operate. I think those of you who know me I can explode. It's not out of the range of things that can happen to me, but I don't walk around all day and night like that. And I did. I really was an angry person. And it wasn't because I was on drugs or alcohol. I was very much not on drugs and alcohol. And I was a very, very angry person. I wouldn't even take an Advil. I was, so against, I was vegan. I was angry at everyone eating meat. Angry at it, just angry in general. And just, it was all just this pride. I'm the king and I'm angry and justified. And Buddhism has just been so kind to me, because not because like, oh, that person sucks. It's because that person was an unhappy person all day and night. And this person isn't an unhappy person on day and night. So I'm so grateful for Buddhism for that. So we were talking about, okay, if desire, attachment's loud, meditate on ugliness. So the ugliness of pain, the ugliness of, in Jeffrey Hopkins' meditation on emptiness. And it says it's from a commentary, and I'm just not sure which one. So I don't want to, I think it's Chandrakirti, I think, but I don't want to say this for sure. The relative ugliness of the beautiful and dependence on something more beautiful. There's the story of the sutra that doesn't always go over well, where, someone is taken to the God, someone has a lot of desire for a woman here, and then is, taken, and has a lot of desire for a man here, whatever. Play the story how you want. It's a story. Someone's got a lot of desire for somebody, and then they're like, wow, that person's hot. Okay. In everyday terms, man, they're hot. They're just the stuff. And this is what I'm going to devote my life to. That's how the story basically goes. You don't need the details. I'm going to devote my life to this because they're just so gorgeous. And then they're taken to like a celestial realm. And then they see like even more beauty. And they're like, oh, well, compared to them, this person I thought was so hot, it's kind of like a pig or something, comparatively. This hot guy, this hot girl that I thought was so wonderful, compared to a celestial, man or girl, whatever, or other, whatever, celestial other, compared to them, wow. It's just like, if you're looking at it in terms of visual, from a perspective of desire and being attached to sensual objects and so forth. And, so it shows the perspective. So this is part of that meditation on the perspective of beauty. My car is beautiful until it sits next to, the next fill in the blank. You get it. The perspective of beauty, you just put it next to something that's just a little better. Now, is this ugly? Or is this still beautiful, but not as beautiful? Where does not as beautiful, when does it end up ugly? Because it's not as beautiful as this, but it's still beautiful. We don't want to put it down. But aren't we saying it's a little ugly because it's not as beautiful? Aren't we just saying that? I mean, if we're honest. So then you start to like lose grip on all of it. beauty in the eye of the beholder. Oh boy, then it really gets difficult, you know, and everybody has their thing. So then that gets even more difficult. Really, look at our crazy minds and how we run after things. And you see how these are antidotes to it. Relativity, you know, the ugliness of the afflictions. How ugly is it when you get angry, when they come up? How just the, you know, how impure that is, those experience. Rapid disintegration, this disintegration that's happening, you know, of our you know, bodies, of our things around us. And then the ugliness of filthy substances. You know, we're thinking of, you know, a lot of times we're thinking of ourselves, we're grasping and being attached to ourselves, this view of the perishing aggregates. We're grasping at external, you know, beauty, you know, other beings and then things, but other beings. And we're told to think about like pus and the blood and the skin and the fat and the skeleton, and what we're really, what the entity is that we're thinking about, what that entity really is. So anyway, so that's what they say we should do. Okay, so the next one is meditation on love as an antidote to aversion. So this is what I wanted to spend some time on, which I won't be able to tonight. So, but this love as an opponent to aversion, it's so important, as I talked about last week, that we don't just use this word love as a weak kind of thing we don't understand, really. And when we are looking at it in terms of the 7-point cause and effect, or we're looking at it in terms of equalizing and exchanging self with others, this topic of love comes up in both of them. And if we're looking at it in terms of it, we have to be ready. This kind of love that we're talking about doesn't have any bias and has been kind of set up in such a way that allows us to utilize this tool, if you will, this mind. It becomes your mind, your mental state, kind of. But it also is a tool, frontwards, backwards tool. You've gotten up to love through meditating on this equality of, you know, friends, enemies, and neutrals. And then you kind of fall off, you know, that a little. You can then bring, if you see somebody who's making you upset, you can say, oh, you know, you can maybe like in a contrived way say, may they have happiness and the causes of happiness. Because that's what love is, wanting beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. But then that's probably not going to be enough unless you've realized love, you know. And if you've realized love, you're not going to have this problem where you've got to work on something where someone's mad at you and you don't want to see them as an enemy. But if you familiarized yourself enough with this, getting to the point where you could be attracted to them in a way of wanting them to have happiness is going to be a lot quicker if you've meditated on these things in the past. So it's like this object, this angry, say someone's angry at you, and that would normally make you angry. If you've meditated on this sort of thing enough, you'll say, okay, I'm getting angry. What's the antidote to anger? May all sentient beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. It's love is the antidote to anger. But how do I get to love? How do I transform that circumstance if I'm not super good, if I'm not like super high end? How do I transform that moment into I want them to be happy? Because just saying love, that's like going way too fast to the antidote without having the cause of the antidote. See, the antidote has a cause, which has a cause, which has a cause, which has a cause. So if you think you're going to just be able to say, I want you to have happiness and the causes of happiness, when someone's really angry with you and you're going to be angry normally, you're fooling yourself with the words of the Dharma. They're just hollow words unless you're high scope. If you're not able to say, okay, I'm starting to boil, And if I'm starting to boil, I'm going to fester in my mind, and then my mouth's going to run. And at the worst thing, I could even hit someone. I'm starting to boil, and this is the progression of what anger does. You get angry inside, then you have inappropriate attention, and then you're willing to spout off at the mouth. You'd really like to hit somebody, but there's consequences in society to that. So you yell and scream at somebody, maybe, in an extreme situation. And then even then it gets so extreme that you're so full of it, you hit somebody. So you see that all of these things are coming from where? Your intention, some sort of thought you're having. This person who's yelling at me is a real jerk. And let me tell myself why. Now, instead of saying, let me tell myself why they're a real jerk, at some point in this process, depending on how much you've meditated, it may get escalated and escalated. And yeah, he's a real jerk. But in some point in this, you're going to say, I don't want my mind to be disturbed. I don't want this. This isn't, let's start there. Let's not worry about all sentient beings have happiness. Let's start at, I don't want my mind to be disturbed. And right now it's disturbed by, identify it, anger. Love is the antidote to anger. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. I don't want that jerk to have any kind of happiness. Definitely. That didn't work. I tried it on for size. Buddha, you're wrong. No, we're not being smart practitioners. We aren't doing what Buddha said at all. We're being idealists. This is not real. We have to be able to then say, okay, well then how, since that didn't work, but that's the antidote, how do I make an antidote? Because the only way I will undisturb my mind from this direct thing, we'll learn about dependent origination fixes everything, but this, how do I undisturb my mind, from this thing? It's to apply an antidote. The antidote's love. I don't have it. So do I give up and just get angrier? No, I have to back up the truck, back up the car, that loud Amazon thing. You hear, I got to back it up. I got to make that noise. I mean, if that helps you, I'm so grateful. Think about somebody's angry at you. Think about the Amazon truck backing up. Back it up to where you need to go to get to the point where you say, okay, I'd equally be willing to benefit beings. That's equanimity. That's nowhere near love in the course of the 7-point cause and effect. Or when we look at equalizing self and others, the equalizing and exchanging self with others practice starts with equalizing self and others. Way before you get to love. And that's assuming a lot of times the 7-point cause and effect has already been like part of your wheelhouse. A lot of times within the Lam Rim, it says that this is the 7-point one's the easier one. And it has this equanimity step. And a lot of the lamas will say that no matter what, do that. And then go to the equalizing self and others. Like all beings are equally important. I'd equally be willing to benefit everyone. All beings are equally important. I'm equally willing to benefit everyone. That's fine. But then all beings are equally important. That then says I'm equal to them. Now I'm equally willing to benefit them, but then the equalizing, exchanging self with others practice, which is more profound, says we're all equally important. We all have Buddha nature. So now I'm thinking, wow, I'm equally willing to understand the fact that you might become a Buddha before me, and that you have a beautiful mind, even as you're screaming at me, that has the seed of perfection right there in front of me. Not a different mind. That mind right there that's just screwy right now, that can become unscrewy just like my mind can become unscrewy. So we get to these points of antidote by a process of then saying, oh, all sentient beings have been my mother. All sentient beings have been taking care of me when I've been so vulnerable. They've taken care of me. They were so kind to me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that these beings that I just were so kind to me, took care of me, I care about so much, I'm going to repay that kindness somehow. I'm going to take it upon myself, the task of repaying that kindness. I'm so attracted to all of these beings in such a way that I love them. I want them to be happy. And now you're looking at someone. You see the difference in the power there. You see how you can change the whole way you're discriminating this person and how you feel about them by way of the meditation that allows you to then take another look. Back up the Amazon truck. Back up your thinking. Take it back to where the inappropriate attention is messing everything up. And take it back to the place where you're eliminating them as someone who's taken care of you when you were vulnerable. You're eliminating that part of their entity, that part of the fact that that being in a previous, that consciousness that's right there, and your consciousnesses are now meeting. You're meeting. And that previously, that being in previous times took care of you. That consciousness took care of you when you were a consciousness embodied in something, and they were a consciousness embodied in something, and they were being named as this independence upon a collection, merely named upon this as independence upon a collection, and you were merely imputed on this independence upon a collection. Then, at that time, when you don't remember it, they took care of you when you were vulnerable. You just don't remember it. You're so veiled with ignorance. And now you're about to, if you haven't already, create another yelling person to come in the future, because you're going to yell at them. And that's the only thing that could create another yelling person. The only thing that create the fruit of someone yelling at you is you to create a concordant cause, yelling at someone. So there's so much to know about an interaction, to understand the karma that's happening, to understand the emptiness that's happening, to understand that this being has taken care of us in our previous lives that's happening. And in our studies, that antidote can work if we have the causes that lead up to it. If we can say to ourselves, I will take it upon myself the task of repaying their kindness, then there's no way the next thing we do is yell at the person. Because the next thing we do is figure out how they can be happy. We want them to be happy and have the causes of happiness. And then the next thing you find out, and this is what I really wanted to get into, and I will next week, is all of the suffering that's really occurring. You want them to have happiness and all of the causes. You're attracted like a magnet, because you know how magnets will stick to metal, but then there's like, if you put something in between it, it doesn't have the stickiness. If you put your self-cherishing attitude in between you and the other person, you can't love them. So that's why before you get to love, you get rid of the self-cherishing attitude and the equalizing, exchanging self with others practice. Because it doesn't allow the magnet to stick. It's called love through the force of attraction. You're attracted to them. You've now become attracted to this person in a way that when you think of someone you want to have happiness and you couldn't, more than anything in the world, you just want this person to be happy, that you're attracted to that person. You don't think like that about everybody in the universe, but the Buddha does. But a bodhisattva starts to and gets to, because of that attraction that's created by relating to beings in a broader perspective. So anyway, we got to calm our minds down. I'm way over time. If you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, there's no bodhicitta. There is grasping, you do not have the view. And please, everyone, pray for Lorinda. She's going in tomorrow to meet with the brain surgeon, and there's a surgery in the future. And obviously that's very scary. I don't, unless you're a super realized high-end practitioner that, doesn't feel sadness and have tears, you will shed them if you are in this circumstance
I'm not.
as a partner and as a person who's having to go through it. So please keep Lorinda in your prayers, and please also, I don't know the current status. Before the teaching, there was still Geshe Dadu Namgyel had not been found. He was lost. Who knows? We don't know where he is. At the Shravasi Abbey last Tuesday, he went for a walk in the woods and he has never come back. And they've employed every means you can imagine to try to find him, with search crews and drones and helicopter search and rescue crews, and the Army Rangers are there now. Retired Army Rangers from a nonprofit group that have stepped in to help search, and they just haven't been able to find him. So and it's very cold at night, and nobody knows where Geshe Dadu Namgyel is. He's a great scholar, a Larampa Geshe. He worked with Emory University. And please keep him in your prayers also, that any obstacles are removed and that he may have peace of mind. That's all we can pray for at this point, that he has peace of mind, and wherever he is, he's taken care of by the protectors. Okay. Prayer for the flourishing of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as the conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's Dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. When in the presence of Buddha Indraketu, he made his vow, the conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. The lineage of pure view and conduct might spread. He offered a white crystal rosary to the sage, who gave him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror's may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view, free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation, cleansed of dark, fading, and fog. His pure conduct, practiced according to the conqueror's orders, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Learned since he extensively sought out learning, reverently, rightly applying it to himself. Good, dedicating all for beings in the doctrine, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scriptures, definitive and interpretive, were without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Listening to the explanations of the three Pitakas, realized teachings and practice of the three highest higher trainings. His skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calmed and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two stages practice, he allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish, combining voidness explained as the causal vehicle with great bliss achieved by the method, the effect vehicle. Hard essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound doctrine protectors, like the main guardians of the three beings paths, quick-acting Lord Vaishravana Karmayana, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious gurus' lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, reverend holders of the teaching, and by the increase of the power of its patience, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. So really, I hope that like I say each time, that if you get anything from these teachings, it's that we really, really are intended to put these things into practice, into our life. And these words can change the way that we handle every circumstance around us. And when we start handling circumstances better, we start moving towards perfection. And the only way we start moving towards something is to move towards it, is to actually take the steps, step by step by step. Even if it's a long distance, even if it's 1,000,000 steps, if we don't take 2 steps, then we aren't getting anywhere. We don't take 4 steps, 6 steps, 10 steps. So I just encourage each and every one of you, from whatever place you're practicing the Dharma from, to put these teachings into practice and see how your discrimination of things can change. The concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lizandrapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made, May they be purified by the mantra of Vajrasattva, imagining Vajrasattva in the space in front of you, inseparable from your root Lama, and light rays and nectars are showering down on you and all sentient beings and transforming into white Oms, red Ahs, and blue Homs, and purifying your body, speech, yours and all sentient beings, body, speech, and mind, respectively. Om Benza Sada Samaya Manabalaya Benza Sada Zena Bajista, Dila Meva Vaza, the Gaya Meva Vaza, Bagaya Meva, Naragna Meva, Zarvazini, Mebraja Savakama Suchime, Kitam Shayam Guru Hum Ha, Bhagavan, Zavadata Kata Benza Memoka, Benza Baba Mahasamaya Sapa Ahom Ve. May we always be protected by Palden Lamo, Jo Rama Jo Rama Jojo, Rama Dunja Kalarajamo, Rama Chadacha Dunjo, Rilla Rilla Hong Jo Hong, Jo Rama Jojo, Rama Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Rama Chadacha Dunjo, Rilla Rilla Hong Jo Hong, Jo Rama Jojo, Rama Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Rama Chadacha Dunjo, Rilla Rilla Hong Jo Hong. May Geshe Dadu Namgyel be swiftly found. Jo Rama Jojo, Rama Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Rama Chadacha Dunjo, Rilla Rilla Hong Jo Hong, Jo Rama Jojo, Rama Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Rama Chadacha Dunjo, Rilla Rilla Hong Jo Hong, Jo Rama Jojo, Rama Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Rama Chadacha Dunjo, Rilla Rilla Hong Jo Hong, Jo Rama Jojo, Rama Dunjo, Kalarajamo, Rama Chadacha Dunjo, Rilla Rilla Hong Jo Hong. May all obstacles to Lorinda's long life be removed through the power of Drapasundri, 3 wrathful protectors. Om Vajrapani Hari Agriva Garuda Om Ve. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In the pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara, Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. We're so fortunate to have His Holiness the Dalai Lama in our world. May he continue to teach and spread Shakyamuni's truth, the truth of the Nalanda masters. We're so fortunate Geshe Dorje Damdu and teachers like him are in our world, really making it so clear for us. And may Geshe Dorje Damdu continue to live very, very long and continue to be able to lead those amazing retreats where people get closer to the perfection of Buddhahood. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Kensur Geshe Wandak, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music, purified by Om, 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 Om. Rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel, the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears. That elucidated the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood the sadness in treating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. The sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all of our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. Thank you so much, everybody, for your kindness and listening. Again, I apologize for going over. Keep Geshe Dadu Namgyel in your prayers. Keep Jeffrey Hopkins in your prayers. Keep Lorinda in your prayers. And yes, please practice these teachings, because this is how you can really, really help all 3 of those beings, is by becoming a Buddha yourself. And that's really all we can truly do, because without the quality of omniscience, we don't really know how to help others that well. So may we become Buddhas as quickly as possible so that we can intervene in the best way possible and know what to do and when to do it and so forth. So just want to say thank you so much to everybody. And thanks for staying around and listening. I know that this isn't the hottest material in the world to listen to, giving up the things of this life and, learning how to interact with the world in a more realistic way kind of goes against what the rest of the world kind of thinks is important. And among billions of people, those who find these simple truths important are very rare. And I want to thank you for taking the time to listen, because I think that even though it's so rare that people want to hear this, if everyone could just figure out how important it was, they'd see that all of the things that they're doing day and night to try to become happy aren't going to ever work, and this will. And thank you for listening. Take care, everybody.